Welcome to the deep dive. You've given us some really interesting material about vaginal yeast infections, or candidiasis, as they're also known. What we want to do right now is really cut through all that and get to the heart of this incredibly common issue, understanding not just the infection itself, but what it means for your broader vaginal health. Think of this as your express route to understanding yeast infections and how to truly support a healthy vaginal environment based on what you've shared.
Yeah, it's pretty astonishing when you look at the sheer numbers. Up to 75% of women will experience a vaginal yeast infection at some point. That really puts into perspective just how widespread this is and why having a solid understanding is so important for so many people.
Absolutely. And while the sources emphasize that these infections aren't typically dangerous in a life-threatening way, well, anyone who's dealt with the intense itching, the irritation, the discharge, that burning sensation, you know exactly how much it can disrupt your day-to-day life. It's definitely not something you can just shrug off.
Exactly. And a key insight from the material, one that sometimes gets overlooked, is that when these infections become recurrent, happening again and again, they can actually have a significant negative impact on overall vaginal health in the long run. It's much more than just dealing with the immediate discomfort each time.
Right. The information highlights that these repeated infections can really mess with the delicate balance of the vaginal microbiome, and that weakening of this natural defense system can have further consequences.
Yeah.
So let's start right there at the foundation of this vaginal microbiome. What exactly is it, and why is it so critical?
Okay, so imagine the vaginal microbiome as this thriving miniature ecosystem. It's a community of beneficial bacteria, and the lactobacillus family makes up the majority of the population there. These aren't just passive residents. They have a very active, vital job. Their main role is to maintain an acidic vaginal pH, ideally somewhere between 3.8 and 4.5.
Okay, so that acidic environment, what's the big deal? What does that actually do to protect us?
Well, that acidity acts as a natural shield. It prevents the overgrowth of unwelcome pathogens. Think of it like a built-in security system specifically designed to keep out troublemakers. And that includes Candida albicans, the fungus that's responsible for...
Right, the main culprit in most yeast infections.
Exactly, the vast majority of them. When this pH balance gets thrown off, it's like leaving the door wide open for potential problems.
That's a great way to picture it. So what are some of the common things that can disrupt this whole delicate ecosystem and lead to those frustrating yeast infections? The material you shared points to a few key triggers.
Yes. There are 5 common factors the sources really emphasize. First up is antibiotic use. Now, antibiotics are essential for fighting bacterial infections, obviously, but they can't really tell the difference between good and bad bacteria. So unfortunately, they can wipe out those beneficial lactobacillus populations right along with the harmful ones. This creates an opportunity for Candida to multiply without much resistance.
Right, it's like clearing out the entire neighborhood watch, which then lets troublemakers move in and take over. Okay, what's the next trigger we should be aware of?
Hormonal shifts are another really significant factor. Fluctuations in estrogen levels, whether they happen during pregnancy, menopause, or even with the use of some hormonal contraceptives, can alter the vaginal environment. It can make it less favorable for those protective bacteria to thrive.
That's interesting. So it's not just external things we need to be mindful of, but also our own internal hormonal landscape. What about diet? The info you provided touches on that too.
Yes, dietary factors, and particularly a high intake of sugar, can play a contributing role. Candida, like a lot of microorganisms, really thrives on sugar. So a diet that's high in sugar can essentially provide the fuel it needs to grow excessively.
That's a good reminder that what we eat can have pretty far-reaching effects. What are the other triggers the material highlights?
Immune system weakness is another key aspect. If your immune system isn't functioning optimally, maybe due to chronic illnesses, high levels of stress, or conditions like diabetes, your body might just have a harder time keeping that Candida population in check.
Makes perfect sense. A body that's already under strain will likely struggle to manage everything effectively. And the last stress mentioned is something we might have more direct influence over, our hygiene practices.
Exactly. Certain hygiene habits that people might think are helpful can actually backfire and disrupt the balance. Things like douching, which washes away both beneficial and harmful bacteria. Using scented washes or soaps that can irritate the delicate vaginal environment, and even regularly wearing tight, non-breathable clothing, like synthetic fabrics that trap moisture and heat. All these can contribute to creating conditions where yeast infections are more likely to occur.
Okay, so we've got a clearer picture now of what yeast infections are, the crucial role of the vaginal microbiome, and the common things that can throw it off balance. Now let's talk about why the sources emphasize the broader impact, this effect on our overall vaginal health, especially if they aren't dealt with effectively. It's not just a
Yeah,
temporary annoyance, right?
precisely. The material outlines 4 key long-term consequences. The first, and perhaps the most obvious, is the issue of recurrent infections. Women who experience frequent yeast infections can unfortunately get caught in this frustrating cycle. The imbalance makes them more susceptible to further infections, making it progressively harder for their vaginal microbiome to naturally reestablish a stable, healthy state.
It sounds like it can become a bit of a vicious circle, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the next impact the sources point out?
Well, a disrupted vaginal microbiome doesn't just leave you vulnerable to more yeast infections, it also increases your risk of developing other types of infections. The sources specifically mention bacterial vaginosis, or BV, urinary tract infections, UTIs, and even sexually transmitted infections, STIs. When the good bacteria are reduced, it really creates an opening for a wider range of less welcome microorganisms.
That's a concerning domino effect. Wow. What about the physical tissues themselves? Do the sources say anything about potential long-term effects there?
Yes, chronic inflammation, the kind that results from repeated infections, can over time actually weaken the vaginal tissues. This could potentially lead to reduced comfort and resilience in the vaginal area.
And finally, the sources touch on something that's often not discussed as much but is incredibly important: the impact on a woman's overall quality of life.
Absolutely. The persistent discomfort, the frustration of dealing with recurring infections, even the potential self-consciousness associated with it, it can really take a significant toll on a woman's mental and physical well-being. It can affect everything from daily activities to intimate relationships and just your overall sense of health.
So it's clear that being proactive about vaginal health and addressing yeast infections effectively is really important for overall well-being. Okay, so the information you shared then moves on to talking about a proactive approach. What can we actually do to support vaginal health and help prevent and manage these infections?
Yeah, the sources emphasize a multifaceted approach. It centers on restoring a healthy balance to the vaginal microbiome, strengthening the body's natural defenses, and being mindful of those environmental factors we discussed, the ones that encourage Candida to overgrow. This often involves a combination of making informed lifestyle choices and considering targeted supplementation.
And the material specifically mentions Balance Complex as a comprehensive potential solution. Can you tell us a bit more about what it claims to offer based on the information?
Sure. Balance Complex is presented as the original vaginal probiotic. Apparently, it's been available for over 10 years, with a significant number of capsules sold over 15 million, the source says. It claims to be specifically formulated for women, containing a high concentration of live bacteria listed as 100 billion CFU per gram of probiotics, along with cranberry and D-mannose for supporting urinary tract health. It also highlights a substantial number of positive reviews on Amazon, over 17,800 five-star reviews. It mentions a maximum strength blend of 17 different strains and the fact that it's non-GMO and manufactured in facilities that are registered with the FDA and follow good manufacturing practices, or GMP. They also reportedly offer a 100% money-back satisfaction guarantee.
That certainly sounds like a product with a lot of claims behind it. Okay, so the sources then outline key steps we can take to support vaginal health. What are the main recommendations?
The first crucial step is replenishing those beneficial bacteria we've been emphasizing. The sources specifically recommend using probiotics containing strains like Lactobacillus acidophilus, L. rhamnosus, L. reiteri, L. plantarum, and Bacillus coagulans. The goal here is really to reintroduce and encourage the growth of a healthy population of these good bacteria to help prevent Candida from becoming dominant.
And we touched on this earlier, but the second key step is all about maintaining that acidic environment. How do these beneficial bacteria contribute to that again?
Exactly. As the sources explain, these beneficial lactobacillus bacteria naturally produce lactic acid as a byproduct of their metabolism. It's this lactic acid that helps maintain that low vaginal pH, creating an environment that is much less hospitable for fungal and other potentially harmful microbial growth.
Okay. The third step mentioned is directly targeting the fungal overgrowth itself. Beyond just promoting the good bacteria, are there other ways suggested to address the Candida specifically?
Yes, the sources point to using natural antifungal and antimicrobial ingredients. They specifically mention oregano leaf extract and caprylic acid as examples of substances that may help eliminate Candida, while ideally having a less disruptive effect on the beneficial bacteria population.
Interesting, using natural compounds to tackle the fungus. What's the fourth key step in supporting vaginal health, according to the information you provided?
Strengthening the immune system is highlighted as a crucial component. The sources mention nutrients like reishi mushroom and arabinogalactin, suggesting these can help bolster the body's own natural ability to fight off infections and maintain overall immune resilience.
So it's not just about what's happening locally in the vagina, but also about supporting our body's overall defense system. Makes sense. And the final step mentioned is going back to addressing those underlying factors we discussed earlier, the common triggers for imbalance.
That's right. The sources reiterate the importance of, avoiding tight-fitting clothing, practicing good hygiene in a balanced way, not too much, not too little, and using gentle products and managing stress. These are all ways to create an overall environment that supports a healthy vaginal balance.
Now, the information goes into quite a bit of detail about these specific ingredients found in Balance Complex and their purported benefits. Let's take a closer look at some of these. First up is that vaginal probiotic blend with a very high CFU, count 100 billion per gram. Just quickly, CFU stands for colony-forming units, which measures the live microorganisms. So what do those specific lactobacillus strains in this blend supposedly do?
Okay, the sources break down the roles. Lactobacillus acidophilus is highlighted for its direct role in maintaining that acidic vaginal pH key for inhibiting candida. Lactobacillus rhamnosus is said to contribute to a balanced overall microbiome and also support healthy immune function. Lactobacillus reuteri is mentioned for strengthening mucosal immunity, that's the immune response in the vaginal lining, and potentially reducing inflammation. Lactobacillus plantarum is credited with providing antioxidant protection, which can help reduce oxidative stress in the vaginal tissues. And finally, Bacillus coagulans is, it's described as a more resilient kind of spore-forming probiotic that can survive the journey to the gut and vagina and provide longer-term microbial support.
That sounds like a pretty targeted blend. The product also contains a cranberry and D-mannose blend. We often hear about those for UTIs, right? What's their role here?
Exactly. The sources explain that cranberry and D-mannose work to prevent harmful bacteria, specifically E. coli, from adhering to the walls of the urinary tract. This is likely included because UTIs can sometimes occur alongside or follow yeast infections, so it's offering a bit of complementary support for the broader urogenital area.
That makes sense, addressing potential related issues. Okay, next up are oregano leaf extract and caprylic acid, which we mentioned earlier as natural antifungals. Let's dive a bit deeper into how the sources describe their action.
Sure. Oregano leaf extract is described as a potent antifungal agent that can effectively target Candida albicans, and it also has activity against other potentially harmful microbes. Caprylic acid, which is a fatty acid found in coconut oil, is noted for being particularly effective against fungal overgrowth and helping restore a more balanced microbial environment within the vaginal microbiome.
And there are also some enzymes listed, protease and cellulase. What function do these serve in this context?
Right. The sources explain that protease and cellulase are enzymes that can help break down biofilms. Now, biofilms are essentially like these protective shields or sticky matrices that Candida can form to protect itself from the body's immune defenses and even antifungal treatments. Think of it like a fortress that Candida builds. By including enzymes that can break down these biofilms, the idea is that the other antifungal ingredients and the body's own defenses might be able to work more effectively against the Candida.
Well, that sounds like a really strategic approach, actually. There are also several other interesting ingredients listed: aloe vera leaf, arabinogalactin, anise seed, black walnut hulls, wormwood, and reishi mushroom. What are the key benefits attributed to these?
Okay, let's run through them. Aloe vera leaf is included for its well-known soothing, healing, and anti-inflammatory properties, providing relief from irritation. Arabinogalactan is highlighted again for boosting the immune system. Anise seed is said to offer both antimicrobial properties and help reduce inflammation. Black walnut hulls are noted for antifungal and detoxifying properties, contributing to a balanced microbiome. Wormwood is described as having immune-strengthening effects and supporting resistance to fungal and microbial infections. And finally, reishi mushroom, as we mentioned, is a powerful adaptogen helping your body handle stress, and it also has anti-inflammatory and immune-enhancing properties.
Wow, so it really looks like a multifaceted formula. It seems aimed at supporting the microbiome, directly addressing fungal growth, managing inflammation, and bolstering the immune system. Okay, so beyond supplementation, the sources also strongly emphasize making complementary lifestyle adjustments. What are some of the key recommendations there?
Yeah, the lifestyle recommendations really circle back to avoiding those triggers we discussed. The sources advise wearing breathable clothing like cotton underwear and avoiding tight pants to minimize moisture and heat buildup, which Candida loves. They also suggest being mindful of sugar intake, as that fuels Candida, and maybe incorporating fermented foods into the diet to naturally support a healthy gut, which can indirectly influence the vaginal microbiome too.
And we touched on hygiene earlier. What specific advice do the sources offer there?
The advice is basically be gentle. Use gentle, unscented cleansers only on the external vaginal area and absolutely avoid douching. Douching just disrupts that natural, delicate balance. Finally, the sources recommend staying well hydrated, drink plenty of water. It supports overall health and helps flush toxins.
We bring it all together. The sources really underscore that taking a proactive approach is the most effective way to prevent those frustrating recurrent yeast infections and maintain good long-term vaginal health.
Exactly, and they present something like balance complex as a potentially valuable tool in this proactive strategy, given its combination of probiotics, cranberry, demonose, and those natural antifungal ingredients.
And it all culminates in a pretty direct call to action in the material, doesn't it? Take control of your vaginal health.
Yes, it really encourages listeners to prioritize their health and consider taking proactive steps. It's framed as a way to potentially break free from the cycle of recurring infections and achieve more lasting wellness.
Now, it's always crucial to remember that individual experiences can vary, and the sources do include a very important disclaimer. What does that advise?
Yes, absolutely critical. It strongly advises everyone to always consult with their healthcare provider before starting any new supplement, especially if you are pregnant, nursing, or currently managing any pre-existing medical conditions. That's essential advice.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And the sources also mentioned a quiz available at vaginalquiz.com. What's the idea behind that resource?
Uh-huh. The quiz is presented as a quick, apparently science-backed way for individuals to get a personalized analysis of their vaginal health in under 2 minutes. It's described as fast, free, and completely private. The aim is to help women understand potential imbalances they might have and receive tailored suggestions, maybe supplement ideas or lifestyle habits. It's positioned as a convenient way to gain some initial insights without needing an immediate doctor's appointment or getting lost down an internet rabbit hole.
Right, a starting point. And finally, for anyone who might be interested in learning more about or trying Balance Complex, the sources mention a special offer.
Yes, there's a mention of a 30% discount coupon available for Balance Complex through Amazon.
So we've really taken a comprehensive deep dive today into vaginal yeast infections, using the valuable information you shared. We've explored the critical role of the microbiome, the common triggers, the broader impact on well-being, and proactive strategies, including supplementation like Balance Complex and those important lifestyle adjustments.
And what's particularly insightful, I think, is recognizing the intricate web of factors at play. It's usually not just one single cause or one simple fix, right? It's more like a delicate, ongoing interaction between your internal environment, your daily choices, and the dynamic balance of the microorganisms living within your body.
Definitely. So now that you, our listener, have gone deep into understanding the vaginal microbiome and all the interconnected factors that can influence it, maybe ask yourself, what's one small, manageable change you might consider exploring to better support your own vaginal well-being? Or, thinking about that strong connection between overall health and vaginal health, what other areas of your lifestyle might be playing a role in this delicate balance? It's definitely something worth reflecting on.